Okay, greetings, you guys. It is 5 o'clock on the dot. My name is Cassandra Faye Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates, founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, and I am back today with the continued reading of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, the Alchemist. And so I believe that tomorrow might be the last day. You understand? And so thank you all for your interest in the book. Thanks for the requests that I got to read the book. This is the fourth book that I've read live online. If you are interested in any of the other readings that I have done, then you can go to my YouTube page, which is at Daughter of the Fates, one word, at Daughter of the Fates. So when you go into YouTube, be sure to, in the search engine, put the at sign, Daughter of the Fates, as one word. Okay, because you know trolls are trying to sabotage my page. So make sure you do it that way. Do not put Daughter of the Fates in the search engine as separate words. Okay. All right. So that's it for the housekeeping. I want to thank those that are tuning in, and we're going to get started. So for those of you who are new and don't know what's going on, I am reading from The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And today, tomorrow, I'm sure we might get lucky because we might get lucky. Today may be the last day because we only have a few pages left. We might go ahead and get on it and just go ahead and finish it today. I do have some arrangements for the full moon that we're still in. So I'm going to try to be disciplined about the time. Greetings, Nura Allah. So I'm going to try to be disciplined about the time because I'm going on a moonlight hike tonight. And yeah, so let's get to it. For those that are tuning in, we're reading The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Okay? And for those who might be following along, we're on page 161, the second paragraph down. I want to tell you a story about dreams, said the alchemist. The boy brought his horse closer. In ancient Rome, at the time of Emperor Tiberius, there lived a good man who had two sons. One was in the military and had been sent to the most distant regions of the empire. The other son was a poet and delighted all of Rome with his beautiful verses. One night, the father had a dream. An angel appeared to him and told him that the words of one of his sons would be learned and repeated throughout the world for all generations to come. The father woke from his dream grateful and crying because life was generous and had revealed to him something any father would be proud to know. Shortly thereafter, the father died as he tried to save a child who was about to be crushed by the wheels of a chariot. Since he had lived his entire life in a manner that was correct and fair, he went directly to heaven, where he met the angel that had appeared to him in his dream. You are always a good man, the angel said to him. You lived your life in a loving way and died with dignity. I can now grant you any wish you desire. Life was good to me, the man said. When you appeared to me in my dream, I felt that all my efforts had been rewarded because my son's poems will be read by men for generations to come. I don't want anything else for myself, but any father would be proud of the fame achieved by one whom he had cared for as a child and educated as he grew up. Sometime in the distant future, I would like to see my son's words. The angel touched the man's shoulder, and they were both projected far into the future. They were in an immense setting, surrounded by thousands of people speaking a strange language. The man wept with happiness. I knew that my son's poems were immortal, he said to the angel through his tears. Can you please tell me which of my son's poems these people are repeating? The angel came closer to the man and with a tenderness led him to a bench nearby where they sat down. The verses of your son, who was the poet, were very popular in Rome, the angel said. Everyone loved them and enjoyed them. But when the reign of Tiberius ended, his poems were forgotten. The words you are hearing are those of your son in the military. The man looked at the angel in surprise. Your son went on to serve at a distant place and became a centurion. He was just and good. One afternoon, one of his servants fell ill, and it appeared that he would die. Your son, who heard of a rabbi who was able to cure all illnesses, your son had heard of a rabbi who was able to cure all illnesses, and he rode out for days and days in search of this man. Along the way, he learned that the man he was seeking was the Son of God. He met others who had been cured by him, and they instructed your son in the man's teachings. And so, despite the fact that he was a Roman centurion, he converted to their faith. Shortly thereafter, he reached the place where the man he was looking for was visiting. He told the man that one of his servants was gravely ill, and the rabbi made ready to go to his home, to his house with him. But the centurion was a man of faith, and looking into the eyes of the rabbi, he knew that he was surely in the presence of the Son of God. And this is what your son said, the angel told the man. These are the words he said to the rabbi at that point, and they have never been forgotten. My Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak a word and my servant will be healed. The alchemist said, no matter what he does, every person on earth plays a central role in the history of the world, and normally he doesn't know it. The boy smiled. He had never imagined that questions about life would be of such importance to a shepherd. Goodbye, the alchemist said. Goodbye, said the boy. The boy rode along through the desert for several hours, listening avidly to what his heart had to say. It was his heart that would tell him where his treasure was hidden. Where your treasure is, there also will be your heart, the alchemist had told him. But his heart was speaking of other things. With pride, it told the story of a shepherd who had left his flock to follow a dream he had on 2 different occasions. It told of personal legend and of many men who had wandered in search of distant lands and beautiful women, confronting the people of their times with their preconceived notions. It spoke of journeys, discoveries, books, and change. As he was about to climb yet another dune, his heart whispered, be aware of the place where you are brought to tears. Be aware of the place where you are brought to tears. That's where I am, and that's where your treasure is. The boy climbed the dune slowly. A full moon rose again in the starry sky. It had been a month since he had set forth from the oasis. The moonlight cast shadows through the dunes, creating the appearance of a rolling sea. It reminded the boy of the day when that horse had reared in the desert, and he had come to know the alchemist. And the moon fell on the desert silence and on a man's journey in search of treasure. When he reached the top of the dune, his heart leapt. There, illuminated by the light of the moon and the brightness of the desert, stood the solemn, majestic pyramids of Egypt. The boy fell to his knees and wept, and thanked God for making him believe in his personal legend, and for leading him to meet a king, a merchant, and an Englishman, and an alchemist. And above all, for his having met a woman of the desert who had told him that love would never keep a man from his personal legend. If he wanted to, he could now return to the oasis, go back to Fatima, and live his life as a simple shepherd. After all, the alchemist continued to live in the desert, even though he understood the language of the world, and he knew how to transform lead into gold. He didn't need to demonstrate his science and art to anyone. The boy told himself that. The boy told himself that on the way towards realizing his personal legend, he had learned all that he had needed to know and had experienced everything he might have dreamed of. But here he was, at the point of finding his treasure, and he reminded himself that no project is completed until its objective has been achieved. The boy looked at the sands around him and saw that where his tears had fallen, a scarab beetle was scuttling through the sand. During this time in the desert, he had learned that in Egypt, the scarab beetles are a symbol of God. Another omen. The boy began to dig into the dune. As he did so, he thought of what the crystal merchant had once said, that anyone could build a pyramid in his backyard. The boy could see now that he couldn't do so if he placed stone upon stone for the rest of his life. Throughout the night, the boy dug at the place he had chosen, but found nothing. He felt weighed down by the centuries of time since the pyramids had been built, but he didn't stop. He struggled to continue digging as he fought the wind, which often blew the sand back into the excavation. His hands were abraded and exhausted, but he listened to his heart. It had told him to dig where his tears fell. As he was attempting to pull out the rocks he encountered, he heard footsteps. Several figures approached him. Their backs were to the moonlight, and the boy could see neither their eyes nor their faces. "What are you doing here?" one of the figures demanded. Because he was terrified, the boy didn't answer. He had found where his treasure was and was frightened at what might happen. "We're refugees from the tribal wars and we need money," the figure said. "What are you hiding in there?" "I'm not hiding anything," the boy answered, but one of them seized the boy and yanked him back out of the hole. Another, who was searching the boy's bags, found a piece of gold. "There's gold here," he said. The moon shone on the face of the Arab who had seized him, and in the man's eyes the boy saw death. "He's probably got more gold hidden in the ground." They made the boy continue digging, but he found nothing. As the sun rose, the man began to beat the boy. He was bruised and bleeding. His clothes were torn to shreds, and he felt that death was near. "What good is money to you if you're going to die? It's not often that money can save someone's life," the alchemist had said. Finally, the boy screamed at the man, "I'm digging for treasure." And although his mouth was bleeding and swollen, he told his attackers that he had twice dreamed of a treasure hidden near the pyramids of Egypt. The man who appeared to be the leader of the group spoke to one of the others. "Leave him. He doesn't have anything else. He must have stolen this gold." The boy fell to the sands, nearly unconscious. The leader shook him and said, "We're leaving." But before they left, he came back to the boy and said, "You're not going to die. You'll live, and you'll learn that a man shouldn't be so stupid. 2 years ago, right here on this spot, I had a recurring dream too. I dreamed that I should travel to the fields of Spain and look for a ruined church where shepherds and their sheep slept. In my dream, there was a sycamore growing out of the ruins of the scarcity. And I was told that if I dug at the roots of the sycamore, I would find a hidden treasure. But I am not so stupid as to cross an entire desert just because of a recurrent dream." And they disappeared. The boy stood up shakily and looked once more at the pyramids. They seemed to laugh at him, and he laughed back. His heart was bursting with joy because now he knew where his treasure was. Because now he knew where his treasure was. Okay. That is the official end of the book. Wow. However, there is an epilogue and a prologue. So I'm going to read those two. The boy reached the small abandoned church just as the night was falling. The sycamore was still there in the sacristy, and the stars could still be seen through the half destroyed roof. He remembered the time he had been there with his sheep. It had been a peaceful night, except for the dream. Now he was here, not with his flock, but with a shovel. He sat looking at the sky for a long time. Then he took from his knapsack a bottle of wine and drank some. He remembered the night in the desert. Oh, oh. He remembered the night in the desert when he had sat with the alchemist, as they had looked at the stars and drank wine together. He thought of many roads he had traveled, and of the strange way God had chosen to show him his treasure. If he had believed in the significance of recurrent dreams, he would not have met the gypsy woman, the king, the thief, or, well, it's a long list. But the path was written in the omens, and there was no way I could go wrong, he said to himself. He fell asleep, and when he awoke, the sun was already high. He had begun to dig at the base of the sycamore. You old sorcerer, the boy shouted up at the sky. You knew the whole story. You even left a big piece of gold at the monastery so I could get back to this church. The monk laughed when he saw the monk laughed when he saw me come back in tatters. Couldn't you have saved me from that? No, he heard a voice in the wind say. If I had told you, you wouldn't have seen the pyramids. They're beautiful, aren't they? The boy smiled and continued digging. Half an hour later, his shovel hit something solid. An hour later, he had before him a chest of Spanish gold coins. There were also precious stones, gold masks adorned with red and white feathers, and stone statues embedded with jewels, the spoils of a conquest that the country had long ago forgotten, and that some conquistador had failed to tell his children about. The boy took up Uman and Thuman from his bag. He had used the two stones only once, one morning when he was at the marketplace. His life and his path had always provided him with enough omens. He placed Urim and Thummim in the chest. They were also a part of his new treasure, because they were a reminder of the old king, whom he had never seen again. It's true, life really is generous to those who pursue their personal legend, the boy thought. Then he remembered that he had to get to Tarifa so he could give 1/10 of his treasure to the gypsy woman, as he had promised. Those gypsies are really smart, he thought. Maybe it was because they moved around so much. The wind began to blow again. It was the levanter, the wind that came from Africa. It didn't bring with it the smell of the desert, nor the threat of Moorish invasion. Instead, it brought the scent of a perfume he knew well, and the touch of a kiss that came from far away, slowly, until it rested on his lips. The boy smiled. It was the first time she had done that. I'm coming, Fatima, he said. Okay, and then I guess maybe I'll read this too, since this is it, and it's only 20 minutes in. Okay, so this is a preview of Paulo Coelho's Warrior of the Light. I haven't read it, but it comes with a prologue. An inspirational companion to the alchemist that invites us to live out our dreams, to embrace the uncertainty of life, and to rise to meet our own unique destiny. In his inimitable style, Paulo Coelho presents a collection of philosophical stories that will delight and guide seekers everywhere and help bring out the warrior of light within each of us. This is the prologue. Just off the beach to the west of the village lies an island, and on it a vast temple with many bells, said the woman. The boy noticed that she was dressed strangely and had a veil covering her head. He had never seen her before. Have you ever visited that temple? She asked. Go there and tell me what you think of it. Seduced by the woman's beauty, the boy went to the place that she had indicated. He sat down on the beach and stared out at the horizon, but he saw only what he always saw, blue sky and ocean. Disappointed, he walked to a nearby fishing village and asked if anyone there knew about an island and a temple. Oh, That was many years ago, when my great grandparents were alive, said an old fisherman. There was an earthquake, and the island was swallowed up by the sea. But although we can no longer see the island, we can still hear the temple bells when the ocean sets them swinging down below. The boy went back to the beach and tried to hear the bells. He spent the whole afternoon there, but all he heard was the noise of the waves and the cries of the seagulls. When night fell, his parents came looking for him. The following morning, he went back to the beach. He could not believe that such a beautiful woman would have lied to him. If she ever returned, he could tell her that. Although he had not seen the island, he had heard the temple bell set ringing by the motion of the waves. Many months had passed. The woman did not return, and the boy forgot all about her. Now he was convinced that he needed to discover the riches and treasures in the submerged temple. He could hear the bells. If he could hear the bells, he would be able to locate it and salvage the treasure hidden below. He lost interest in school and even in his friends. He became the butt of all the other children's jokes. They used to say, "He's not like us. He prefers to sit looking at the sea because he's afraid of being beaten in our games." And they all laughed to see the boy sitting on the shore. Although he still could not hear the old, although he could still he could, although he still could not hear the old temple bells ringing. Sorry about that. Although he could not he could although he still could not hear the old temple bells ringing, the boy learned about other things. He began to realize that he had grown so used to the sound of the waves that he was no longer distracted by them. Soon after that, he became used to the cries of the seagulls, the buzzing of the bees, and the wind blowing amongst the palm trees. 6 months after his first conversation with the woman, the boy could sit there oblivious to all the other noises, but he could still not hear the bells from the drowned temple. Fishermen came and talked to him, insisting that they had heard the bells, but the boy never did. Sometime later, however, the fishermen changed their tune. You spend far too much time thinking about the bells beneath the sea. Forget about them and go back to playing with friends. Perhaps it's only fishermen who can hear them. After almost a year, the boy thought, perhaps they're right. I could do better to grow up and become a fisherman and come down to this beach every morning because I've come to love it here. He thought too, perhaps it's just another legend and the bells are all shattered were all shattered during the earthquake and have never rung out since. That afternoon, he decided to go back home. He walked down to the ocean to say goodbye. He looked once more at the natural world around him, and because he was no longer concerned about the bells, he could again smile at the beauty of the seagulls' cries, the roar of the sea, and the wind blowing in the palm trees. Far off, he heard the sound of his friends playing, and he felt glad to think that he would soon resume his childhood games. The boy was happy, and as only a child can, he felt grateful for being alive. He was sure that he had not wasted his time, for he had learned to contemplate nature and to respect it. Then, because he was listening to the sea, the seagulls, the wind in the palm trees, and the voices of his friends playing, he also heard the first bell, then another, and another, until, to his great joy, all the bells in the drowned temple were ringing. Years later, when he was a grown man, he returned to the village and to the beach of his childhood. He no longer dreamed of finding treasure at the bottom of the sea. Perhaps that perhaps that had all been a product of his imagination, and he had never really heard the submerged bells ring out on one lost childhood afternoon. Even so, he decided to walk for a while along the beach to listen to the noise of the wind and to the cries of the seagull. Imagine his surprise when there on the beach he saw the woman who had first spoken to him about the island and its temple. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "I was waiting for you," she replied. He noticed that, despite the passing years, the woman looked exactly the same. The veil hiding her hair had the veil hiding her hair had not faded with time. She handed him a blue notebook full of blank pages. "Write. A warrior of the light values a child's eyes because they are able to look at the world without bitterness. When he wants to find out if the person beside him is worthy of his trust, he tries to see him as a child would. What is a warrior of light? You already know that, she replied with a smile. He is someone capable of understanding the miracle of life, of fighting to the last for something he believes in, and hearing the bells that the waves set ringing on the seabed. He had never thought of himself as a warrior of the light. The woman seemed to read his thoughts. Everyone is capable of these things. And though no one thinks of himself as a warrior of the light, we all are. He looked at the blank pages in the notebook. The woman smiled again. Write about the warrior, she said. So, my friends, that is it. We are finished with the reading of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. For those that have never read it, I am glad to have been the first to read it to you. For those who have read it, I am happy to help you revisit the beauty of that most incredible book. So, that's it. We're done. And what an auspicious day to finish this book here on this full moon, this blue super moon on this evening. And that's great because I needed the time to get myself prepared. I needed time to get myself prepared to go on my little full moon hike with the homies. And so, yes, this just all worked out. So the next few days, today's Wednesday, so Thursday and Friday, I haven't decided what I am going to talk about because I told you there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot that's happening and a lot that I am planning. So I don't know what I'm going to talk about over the next 2 days. I'm going to let Spirit lead on that. Saturday will be the weekly temple service of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. So that will be from 11 to 1 Pacific Standard Time on this Saturday. So that will be happening. And then we'll resume on Monday to me keeping my commitment to talk to you at least 1 hour a day, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 days a week. So thank you so much for tuning in. This is probably the shortest video I've ever made. Enjoy, be really deliberate about this energy today and tomorrow. Be really deliberate, be really prayerful or meditative, and call in all good things on this wonderful, beautiful, super blue moon in Virgo. Okay. Well, the moon is in Pisces in the sign of Virgo. So, all right. Thank you so much. I will see you guys again tomorrow.